Thought Media Network is proud to present Cosmic Prayers, your weekly shift, Mondays at 11 Mountain Time, with your host, Laura Topper. The Cosmic Prayers, live from the UK. And now, here she is, Laura Topper.
Hi, and welcome to the Cosmic Prayer. I am so pleased to be here. It's Monday, 6 o'clock in the UK, 11 a.m. Mountain Time, and what a show we have tonight. Welcome, welcome, welcome to you, wherever you are, whoever you are. Welcome in to this broadcast of the Cosmic Prayer. You're on New Thought Media Network. I just feel so excited because for the next, half an hour to 45 minutes, we have the incredible Reverend Dan Granda, who I'm just so excited to be in conversation with to find out more about him and his amazing projects. He is the co-founder of the Soul Evolution Collaborative, which is a brand new inspiration that's about to be revealed in its glory this week. So I'm so excited to be talking about that with him. And Reverend Dan is a staff minister at Orlando Center for Spiritual Living, which is an incredible thing because he's such a great speaker and up and coming thought. Well, he is a thought leader and spiritual leader. And I just feel so blessed that he's here right now on the Cosmic Prayer because we're going to have fun and go deep with prayer. Reverend Dan, hello. Welcome.
Well, hey there. How exciting to be here.
Hi. Oh, how are you? Lost my earbuds there. How are you?
Right off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for having me here.
You are so welcome. Thank you for being here. We've known each other for a while, haven't we? So
we have, yeah.
It just felt natural for me to call you and say, come on to the Cosmic Prayer and share with your projects and your wisdom. And what are your thoughts on prayer? Let's start with that. How's prayer guiding you right now? Because you've got some amazing projects coming up and evolving themselves.
For sure. Yeah. Well, it's such an interesting thing, the word prayer, because I think it has such a history with it. So it's like anytime the word comes up, it's like I almost feel like I have to debunk what that even means. So I think, to most people, prayer is like this laundry list of like, hey, God, would you do this thing for me? Anyone who's familiar with New Thought knows that it can be that, but who are you really talking to, right? Like if you have this laundry list of things, who are you talking to? And other times prayer has been this like beseeching or like please save me from this thing, and the gist of all that is there's this. For either of those things to be true, for either of those prayers to work, there has to be some sort of power outside of you that is separate from you, that is like separate from all of this, that has some sort of power that we don't have here, that is like calling the shots, pulling the strings, and making things happen. So I have this thing in me that anytime the word comes up, I'm like, all right, I'll keep from going on a whole soapbox about it. But
it's okay, you can. You're here.
Okay, well, great. And I will.
You're allowed. You're on the Cosmic Prayer.
So, all right, so we'll take the long route all the way around in like 10 minutes. So I'm gonna jump ahead then to what is probably one of the questions later on, and that is one of the things that is one of the projects I'm currently working on is the Soul Evolution Collaborative, and we'll get into more detail about that, I would imagine, in a little bit. But one of the things that inspired the Soul Evolution Collaborative is a desire to see an evolution of awareness collectively especially in the United States, but I think probably globally, away from ways of thinking that have been around for like hundreds of years that certainly served a purpose, but have most recently stopped serving a purpose. And yet we continue to use the same language. We continue to use the same ways of thinking about very old things that are not necessarily serving us anymore. And I think prayer is actually the perfect example of that, because prayer in and of itself is amazing when it's done intentionally, right? When we're doing it knowingly, when we know what the process is, when we know what's going to happen, when it's not that like Christmas list to this outside thing. And so part of the Soul Evolution Collaborative visioning, part of our visioning around this new ministry is the idea that there's so much language that needs to change and things that we don't even have words for. Like we've literally had conversations like, well, prayer's not quite it. Like we know what we mean when we say it, but does everyone else know what we mean? And being both in person and online, if we're reaching out to, thousands of people who are not necessarily familiar with New Thought, not necessarily familiar with the principles that we're talking about, but are looking for something new, we say prayer, 50%, probably way more than 50% of the people out there are going to go to that old version of prayer. What does this word mean? I grew up Christian for the first 10, 12 years of my life or so. And prayer there was a really specific thing. And I think that's the predominant view in the United States. When you use the word prayer, is we all kind of carry that history, that baggage with us. So what new word do we come up with? What do we
cosmic?
Yeah, right. So so it's interesting to be asked, what are my feelings on prayer? Because I think, prayer is really what allowed all of this to happen. I mean, we literally started visioning for the Soul Evolution Collaborative 3 years ago. We didn't even know what it was. I mean, we had this idea of creating this online resource for bringing ministers together and helping them do things and making it easier to do stuff. And while some of that's still in there, if you had told us 3 years ago that we were developing a new way of doing ministry that was going to be possible because the world was going to be in the middle of a pandemic and all church, all New Thought centers, all religion was going to go online, we'd be like, yeah, okay, sure thing. Right?
So let's just get to that for a moment then.
Yeah,
let's talk about that, because what you are now creating, or what you have been creating for the past few years, because things take time, obviously, and you've been doing this, you say, for 3 years. You've been visioning with this with Ruth Pulley and Chris Lahiff. It's amazing what you're creating as a way for people to access wisdom teachings and New Thought teachings and scientifically proven now teachings that people can access in a way that feels more conventional or less conventional, and with more of an up-to-date slant with the languaging, because that's really what you're talking about, isn't it? That we are now we're in a time where we need, as teachers and guides and leaders, we need to accommodate masses of people that know there is a change, and we need to relanguage it so that it can be heard really easily, without it being like, oh my gosh, what's all that about? And I think you've really captured that in soul evolution, because that is what we are here doing, isn't it? Evolving, unfolding as in our soul is calling for that. Our souls are calling for that. And what a perfect time for you to launch.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So that's the whole prayer thing, is like a seed, an idea was planted at least 3 years ago, if not longer, that we one of the principles we talk about in New Thought is consciousness, right? And consciousness exists everywhere,
Wow.
beyond space and time, right? So if you have living existence that requires space and time, we live in the material world, and yet we are all connected through this timeless, spaceless, non-located consciousness. Consciousness does not know time other than through this experience, right? So like in consciousness, I mean, this idea was and has always been, like that existing, and it was everything that it will ever be. I mean, right? That sounds a little crazy, but the idea itself was both the beginning of it and the completion of it all at the same instant.
Absolutely, and it hasn't completed yet.
Yeah, right. And so
it's still unfolding.
We've just kind of been unfolding or evolving this idea over time, knowing that it would play out in exactly the perfect and right way. And what better perfect time would there be than right now to do this thing that is, both online and when possible in person, and whatever else it really turns into, I guess.
So let me ask you, what is this thing, and how does, so what have you called prayer in this? What is your new terminology for this? And then how is that showing up in, explain what soul, what you are going to be providing with Soul Evolution. What is it exactly? Well, because I know it's launching tomorrow and I'm so excited. I want everyone that's listening, because just as a quick thingy here, you're on the Cosmic Prayer. If you're listening right now, we are with the amazing Reverend Dan Granda, who is just such a beam of inspiration, shining his light as a thought leader, spiritual leader, and staff minister at CSL Orlando, and his new project, co-founder of Soul Evolution, which is launching tomorrow. So Reverend Dan, there we go. There is the website, Soul Evolution Collaboration, because that is what it's all about, isn't it? On every level, collaborating now.
So I guess the first thing is, short of actually coming up with new words, which I'm not very good at, really what we've kind of settled on is just being really clear on what we mean by the words that we're using. And I think, especially within New Thought, there is a tendency to kind of use the words that we've heard everyone else using and the phrases that we've heard everyone else using, and they tend to get streamed together in this very artistic and poetic and beautiful way, and we're all kind of like, oh yeah, it sounds great. But I'm not always sure we know what we're talking about. And some of the time it's because there's not word. I mean, if we're trying to describe a power greater than ourselves, which most people would refer to as God, but as soon as you say God, there's a whole other language around it. There's a whole other history and story, and everybody has their own version. So a lot of times we say something like consciousness. But what is that? And then we talk about being in consciousness, and I have a consciousness, and you have a consciousness.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute.
And for somebody that's very new to this, that's a whole learning in itself.
Yeah.
Before you even get to that place, for somebody that's new to it. Yeah.
So one of our greatest motivations is to just really make plain language the whole New Thought concept, like all of the principles of New Thought can just be so easily explained in just real language. The trick is for us coming up with the real language for it. So with something like prayer, we haven't stopped using the word prayer. We've just been really clear about every time we use the word prayer or use the word consciousness or whatever it is, that we get in the habit of talking about what it is we mean before people get the opportunity to go down that old road of whatever the
old beliefs.
Yeah. So it's like, this is, by prayer I mean affirmative prayer, or the mathematical formula that we put our words together in, so that we are creating with the power of our word an experience that we actually want, right? So we are using the creative process intentionally, right? We are creating along with the environment that we live in. The universe is creative. We are creative, and we are just intentionally activating this mathematical, scientific formula and how to do that. So we do still use the word prayer. I guess is the short.
I think it's very exciting because you're allowing a deeper understanding through you're teaching not only the topic, but you're teaching what the words mean in a very simplistic way.
Yeah.
And that allows people to question it and understand it at a deeper level.
Yeah.
And because that sounded really exciting, what you just said, it's a mathematical formula for working, co-creating with what's already here. Yeah. That's like, wow, that's a really lovely way of saying it. And it's interesting. It's interesting, isn't it? That sparks imagination. Oh, yeah. I want that formula. I want that formula. Yeah. Teach it to me.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know if this is true worldwide, but I've definitely noticed it a lot here. We are experiencing a serious trust issue in society. And I suspect this is something that has really been around for a long time. It's just never really come to the surface like it has recently. And I think one of the things that people don't necessarily trust is the systems that have been in place. And along with that is religion. And so when you start talking about things like prayer, it does trigger a lot of not nice and friendly conversation a lot of times. So that certainly is one of the things that we are trying to do is we are offering, it's kind of like, if you're a church person and you go to church, awesome. Go to church. That's really cool. And there are definitely going to be people that still do like the whole Sunday church thing. But I think there's a growing number of people who like church really doesn't do it anymore. They know they're looking for something. They're not really sure what. And they've kind of just always done the Sunday morning thing. So they get up Sunday morning and they go to the building, or they get up Sunday morning and they now turn on Facebook. Because there's not really anything else out there yet widely known as an alternative. Like if you are, we'll just say, if you're a spiritual person, right? If you're someone who is seeking a connection with something that feels greater than you are, I would call you a spiritual person, right? So if you're a spiritual person and you're looking for something other than like the church you grew up with, I think even in most of our New Thought centers, it's still Sunday morning. It's still in a building where people are sitting in rows. There's still somebody at the front of the room kind of giving the message. It's like, well, this seems a whole lot like church.
Yeah. I think that's changing though. I mean, it has changed, hasn't it? Because of what's happened and how we are.
Yeah.
And it had to change.
Yeah.
Because we want to hear it in a different way. We want to be involved in it in a different way.
Yeah.
Like really involved in it.
Yeah, right.
Rather than sitting in the rows listening. It's a deeper calling now to have an embodiment of it, I believe.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's one of the things that has become super clear to us is I think Sunday is going to keep being Sunday, and there's going to be enough people that want that Sunday thing. And, so for people who are really into it, for people who are really into leading it, don't stop doing that. But for those who are looking for a thing, we've all kind of been thrust into this like new way. And for some, it's really scary. And for some, it's really confusing. And then, for the rest of us, it's like the greatest thing that's ever happened. I'm like, awesome. Now people are going to look for this because it's like, people who were doing Sundays who could no longer go in person are now used to seeing things online, right? So we're kind of creating this new online way of doing things. So to kind of break the mold out of the Sunday service, we're creating a Tuesday evening show. So it's kind of like, it's just kind of a stretch. I'll say it's like a spiritual version of like the Daily Show minus the news.
Okay, I don't know what the Daily Show is, but I would imagine it's kind of like GMTV over here. Like a morning show with like news and kind of
right. So the
Yeah.
intention is to keep it light,
Yeah.
but to still keep it slightly entertaining. I mean, it's not necessarily a word we would normally use, but I think to entertain people long enough to stay around to hear what the actual message is. So it's a new way of conveying new thought messages.
So for anybody that's watching here that doesn't understand, that's maybe just, come across this, because people do watch this afterwards and quite a few people watch it, and people that might not understand, what is New Thought? It's like in a sentence, what is New Thought? New Thought.
So New Thought this is not the traditional definition, but I'll give it to you.
No, your definition.
Right, yeah. So New Thought is when you have an experience where something tells you or shows you or changes you in a way that all of a sudden you can see it differently. So you have a new thought about whatever that experience was, where in the past you may have always seen this one thing in this one way. Now all of a sudden you have a new perspective. You have a new thought on it, right? So
you then have a different way of perceiving it, and you make different choices in that direction.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is a spiritual teaching. Some people say it's spiritual but not religious. I think it can actually be both. I think to do it religiously is actually a really great thing. So I'm not gonna do
it religiously. I like that. Every day.
Yeah. You can be spiritual every day and be religious in that. But it is really it's ancient principles. I mean, principles of life that have been around forever, that we are and have been teaching for a while now as if they're new.
Yeah. How dare we?
Yeah, right. But it's new to many of us, a new way of looking at life, where we're not required to ditch anything and not required to adopt anything that doesn't make sense to us, that doesn't fit into our worldview. But it certainly is a newer worldview than most hold. And I think when you kind of start, dipping your toe into these ideas, there are spiritual principles that make a whole lot of sense, that have really stood the test of time. I mean, really have been around for thousands of years, that were taught in ancient wisdom teachings throughout the ages, that have kind of been underground for a while, and I think really they're principles that are all over the place. You scroll through your news feed, even if you're not New Thought, and people are talking about New Thought principles left and right, and you never know it. And until you do know it, then you start seeing them and recognizing how it's everywhere.
Yeah.
But I also feel called to point out, like, it's not like the positive thinking crowd, right? Like, that's a really easy thing. Like, we get bunched into like you're those positive thinking people. It's like, well, no, not really.
No.
Right. And so there is definitely a movement of you should never have negative thoughts. You should only think positively. And that'll be great. And there is some truth to that. Like, thinking positively is great, except if you're going through a really negative situation. Then thinking positively is just like burying that negative experience. That's depression. That's not really a good thing. So
because the new thought might not always be something, a thought that we feel good about in that moment.
Yeah.
And yet it's a new perception that's allowing us to see life in a different way, or see our reality and our experience in a different way. And it probably 9 times out of 10 won't feel comfortable.
Yeah. There's some dirty work.
Yeah, there's a bit of work to do there.
You're kind of undoing belief systems that have been around for like 250
quite a few years.
Longer. Yeah. Right. I mean, if it's your belief, it's it's been around probably your whole life. So undoing some of those beliefs does kind of bring up some uncomfortable truths sometimes. Yeah, for sure.
And that's where affirmative prayer comes in. Whatever we want to call it, the process of prayer. Let's think of a new word for it. Brand new word. We need something that's just kind of light language.
Yeah.
That's where we'd use prayer.
Yeah.
And use it affirmative prayer to assist with that process of delving deeper into this new thought, this new view, and to guide us through that, and to know the truth always, that there is, we are who we are as spiritual human beings.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, most of the time when we utilize what we do call affirmative prayer, that process, we're really just reminding ourselves, we're bringing our mind back into alignment with whatever it is we want our belief to be, right? So if we have a belief, because a lot of us have been indoctrinated into beliefs that we no longer believe in or with, so there's a dissonance in between what we think we want to believe and what the belief we actually hold. So when we are trying to kind of uproot that old belief and replace it with a new one, the process of affirmative prayer really is just getting yourself back in alignment with whatever that new belief is, in order to see it or experience it differently than we were.
Oh, and even aligning with the greater, the knowing of the higher self, the higher being, if you like, that where there isn't even a belief, it's simply love, perfection, wholeness, where we can kind of park the beliefs for the moment. And that's I find that very comforting to be in that place. So I want to ask you, Reverend Dan, what is your main vision and intention for the work that you are doing now in the world? And and what is that?
That's a big question.
You don't need to answer all of it. It can be, just a few words, and and how prayer assists you with that.
Yeah. So I will give you my intention, and I believe this was backed by the intention of the collaborative. My intention is that we have a world full of people who are intentionally choosing their actions, who are intentionally choosing their beliefs. A world full of people who are aware enough of their own emotional intelligence, of their own spiritual intelligence, that they can really create their experience on purpose. I think a lot of what we have seen over and over again really is when we are unaware of the beliefs that we hold, we are creating an experience that we're unaware we are actually creating based on those beliefs, right? So if we're holding certain values that are negatively impacting large groups of people, there's probably a good chance that those are beliefs that we learned at a very young age without our knowledge that we were learning them, and we're really indoctrinated into unintentionally, and it kind of just gets passed on generation after generation until somebody in that cycle realizes, hey, wait a minute, I don't actually believe this. That's not actually true about that other group of people, or that's not true for me or this experience. And so when we have enough people self-aware enough of their own beliefs, we're all able to consciously, intentionally do our own inner self work, that we don't have such crazy dissonance across the world, right? Within states, within countries, it's crazy. I mean, I don't know if this is true in other places, but one of the things that is super relevant right now in the States is, and there are subgroups that talk about this a little bit, but it's just certainly not mainstream idea yet, is the fact that we have generations of men who grew up who weren't allowed to talk about their feelings, so they don't know what their feelings are. Mm-hmm. So the only thing that's okay for them to express is anger, and that shows up as hate. And so we have this, literally like 50% of the United States who is hating the other 50% of the United States. It's like, what is happening, right? And
that gets passed on, to younger generations now, children growing up.
Yeah, and so
that has to be interrupted, doesn't it? Or it can be interrupted. That's the work you're doing.
Yeah, right. And and that is for sure one of the greatest intentions of the Soul Evolution Collaborative, is to offer a new way of thinking, a new way of being. So not only do we have online events like Tuesday evening with our show Truth Be Told, or Thursday evening with our live gathering, you can sign up and join on Zoom, but we will also have a library of free educational resources online. Literally, like, it's kind of going to be like the Netflix of New Thought. We're going to have like short bits of like, different principles and classes and all kinds of stuff online for people to go check out, which is going to be really cool.
So excited.
Not really been done before.
So excited.
Yeah.
Let me just flick back for a second. I'm going to come back to you in a second, Dan, just because two listeners some messages came across. Diego, would you be able to flash them across? There we go. Realizing we are co-creators, our thoughts become our intentions, and when we take action on our inspirations, we can do great things.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. We work collectively. Hi, Wayne. We're all made of stars. I love that.
That's true.
Yeah. What's this one? Breaking the cycle of unconscious action and reaction. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Catch it, check it, change it, have a new thought. I love that. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm going to write that down and plaster it all over my wall here.
I love that. Yeah. Sure.
Catch it, check it, change it.
Yeah.
This is the kind of language, isn't it? That we
it's so simple.
You're talking
so true.
Simple.
Yep.
Catch it, check it. I am actually writing it down right now. Change it.
You should have that guy on your show.
Perfect. Yeah.
And so that's one of the things, with all this online stuff, and then also with the intention of sprouting in-person things, pop-ups in different places. We are striving to interrupt that process. So basically, as much information as we can get out into the world to interrupt that process, the better off all of us will be.
Yeah.
And prayer is certainly the affirmative prayer, and the way we've been talking about it is certainly the driving force behind that. I mean, it's what got us to the place where we are. Normally, when you start something new, there's one person or two people or three people behind it driving that idea, creating the momentum for that idea, and trying to get other people on board to that idea. This idea grew a momentum in and of itself so large that it was actually driving us. The launch, we were in the middle of filing all kinds of paperwork for the Soul Evolution Collaborative when we found out it could actually be an outreach of Orlando Center for Spiritual Living, which literally catapulted us forward like 9 months in like a moment. So we went from like trying to fill out boxes on an application to like, okay, how do we actually get this to people?
That is incredible. So it's that thing, isn't it, of, make the train tracks and the trains will appear. It's about having that faith and conviction and saying yes and taking the action and knowing it, and then Spirit fills in the gaps.
Yeah.
I love that.
And it's kind of crazy because it was like we could only see like whatever the next step was. Like if we were to see anything more than that, it'd be like, yeah, there's no way. So we saw the next step each time. We took that step, we waited a little bit, and we're like, what now? And then the next step showed up, and the next step showed up. And so it's been pretty amazing to see, like, you know, when you really work it, it really works for you pretty clearly.
So would you say that your daily prayer practice is a vital, integral part of all of this? Affirmative prayer practice.
Yeah. Yeah, we've kind of talked about that quite a bit, the three of us, Ruth, Chris, and myself. And, you know, not only the act of engaging in prayer, which is super important. Like, it's super important to set aside the time to intentionally, you know, speak the words of what it is you do want, and you know, to convince yourself, to convince the mind that is what's being created, but also to engage. I mean, one of the things we're talking about is practical. Like, people have been asking forever at this point, what is the practical application of New Thought principles? Like, how do you actually apply these? These things sound great, but I still have this experience, right? And so we've really kind of dug in to that conversation of what is the practical application. And what I've come around to personally in my own practice is one of the greatest applications is literally to pray without ceasing. Like, this idea of, like, every word, every action, every moment you are creating something, you know, that's not to say that we still don't have a subconscious filter that our words are filtered through, right? We're not like, I want $1 million to fall in that chair right now. Well, there's a whole conscious, subconscious collective belief that, like, it's hard to get $1 million, so it's not going to fall in that chair right now. So, you know, that doesn't necessarily happen. I'm not that good yet. Someday.
Work in progress.
Yeah, for sure. But to live and move and act as if every word that we are saying is creating, because it is. I mean, it is creating. It may, you know, that thought of having $1 million fall in this chair right now, in and of itself has not created the experience of having $1 million fall in that chair right now, but it has certainly affected this filter, which our thoughts go through, right? We have this subconscious filter, and every time we kind of jar that filter a little bit, it changes something, it shifts something. So every time we have that new thought, every time we have or say something or create something new, it's still creative, it's still changing, it's changing the conscious awareness of that idea. So as much as possible to just be aware of, what am I thinking? What am I saying? What am I actually doing? As if it is as if it were to create. Boom! If what I say just showed up in front of me, is that what I really want?
Okay, so actually, to be really mindful that we are making a change with our thoughts and our feelings and our intentions. Yeah, I love that.
I was great at it, but.
And you're saying what everybody, when I asked that question here on the show weekly, you know, what is prayer? You've answered that, and you're answering it in the same way that most of the thought leaders and spiritual teachers and reverends that have been here have said. You know, prayer is that ceaseless knowing and awareness and state of being. State of being, and it's about cultivating that.
Yeah, for sure.
So what can we expect with your launch this week, Dan?
Oh, man.
Of Soul Evolution Collaborative.
Yeah. Well, tomorrow night? We're certainly excited about it. Yep. Tomorrow evening, 7 p.m. Eastern. Yep. You go to Soul Evolution. If you go to facebook.com/Soul Evolution Collaborative.
That's the place to go to.
That is the place to go to tomorrow evening at 7 p.m.
What time? 7 p.m. What, Eastern?
Eastern. Yep. So that is
7 p.m. Eastern, which is
5 Mountain. 5 p.m. Mountain.
5 Mountain, and that makes it's 12 o'clock at night in the UK. Okay.
Yeah, late. It's fine. It's worth it.
Just another late night.
Well, the good thing is, since it is Facebook Live, it is recorded and archived, so it'll be on our Facebook page whenever you get to it. But do watch it before Thursday, because Thursday evening is our next, our second of 2 events. So each week we will have 2 events. The first is Tuesday, the second one on Thursday. So Thursday night is what we're calling the gathering. And that is where we will take the conversation, the messages that came up Tuesday in the show, and we're actually all going to come together on Zoom and actually go through some conversation and bring people together. We'll certainly pray. We'll certainly have some spiritual practices, but really kind of dig into like questions and answers around like, how do you use this? What does it actually mean? You know, what is, that sounds great. What does that mean in my life? Right.
Yes.
And so we'll have that interaction. It'll also just give people a chance to really come together. I think we've all been missing that quite a bit between lockdown and the rest of COVID and all that kind of stuff. Actually, this is a whole other side of the Soul Evolution Collaborative we really didn't get into. I think part of the evolution that we're seeing, while people are fading away from Sundays, I think one of the things that Sundays was really effective at was the only time that people intentionally set aside for bridging their horizontal relationships with their vertical relationships. So very often we'll set aside time for our friends, and people who have a spiritual practice set aside time for their spiritual practice. Very rarely do we engage intentionally in spiritual practices with other people in a way that is forward moving, right? Like we can go through mindless ritual, and that's intentional and on purpose, but it's not actually growing us. It's not actually fulfilling the purpose of religion or spirituality. It's just kind of going with the motions. So when Sunday mornings when they are effective is when it's intentional to come together for our personal and spiritual growth, when we do that together. So without Sunday mornings, there's nothing yet replacing that. So one of the things, the evolution part of this is to intentionally create that spiritual place. Like, you know, once we have food and shelter and water, like we're all yearning for somewhere to belong.
Yeah, connection.
And somewhere to self-actualize, somewhere to have a purpose and live in that purpose. And without this intersection, without this intentional intersection of relationships, we don't have that. So that's also, for me anyway, is a huge motivator in creating this new type of community. Is, you know, if we're not doing, for those who are not doing Sundays anymore, you know, for the masses who are not interested in Sunday anymore, what do they have? What's available for them? And it's not always a lot.
And it feels to me that you are also, it feels like that you're going to be reaching out to people that may never have even gone on a Sundays anywhere. Yeah. And that suddenly it's like, I really want this connection and a spiritual activation, and where am I going to find it? And it's fresh and it's new and exciting. So it's not only for people that are used to being in a community on a Sunday. It's for someone that people that might never have experienced that. Yeah. How exciting.
Yeah. So if you're interested in joining us this week, Tuesday on Facebook, Thursday is on Zoom. So if you want to join that, you can check out our website. There is a tab, how to join the evolution. So if you go to soulevolutioncollaborative.org and look for join the evolution, there's instructions on how to join Thursday, and you sign up and get a link to join that. So it's
what time is that?
That is also 7 p.m. Eastern. That's 5 Mountain, and
12 in the UK.
Midnight in the UK. But yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. So that's how we're kicking off. And as our name suggests, we will continue evolving as we go and adding more, more ways to serve the people and bring people together.
It's so exciting. So exciting. And I'd really love it if you and Chris and Ruth will come onto the Cosmic Prayer in the new year.
Yeah.
The three of you come on together and talk about what the next phase is, because I get the feeling this is just a continual evolution, and who knows what it will be next. And I'd love you to come back and talk about it again.
Well, we certainly have some ideas, so we'll see how many of those come to fruition by then.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, well, as always on the Cosmic Prayer, we do kind of come to a close with a spiritual mind treatment.
Awesome.
Would you like to do that together?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So for anyone watching now, we are here with Reverend Dan Granda. If you've only just joined us, we're coming to the end of the show, but you can go back because this will be recorded, and such an amazing wisdom coming from Reverend Dan about his new projects and his understandings of prayer. And thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having
Shining
me.
your light. Anyone wants to reach out to you, then it's your email is on, or it's through Facebook, Soul Evolution.
Yeah, they can reach out, message us at Soul Evolution, the Facebook page.
Yeah.
Or they can email me at Dan at revdangranda.com. That's always a good one.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So what is in your heart right now to know truth for?
Yeah, wow. I think I would love to see people find comfort in the discomfort that we're experiencing, right? So that there is a I don't know if this is global or not, but there is certainly.
I'm sure it is.
I would imagine. Yeah.
I'm sure it is.
There are a lot of things happening politically. There's a lot of things happening health-wise in society that seem to be bringing a lot of discomfort. And I think that's important. I think the discomfort is important. So to just kind of not shy away from the discomfort, but to kind of embrace what is and find the good in it, right?
Okay.
Is to be with what is, and also let us know this is the beginning of change.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, so shall I begin, or would you like to begin this? Leave it to you.
Yeah, why don't you begin?
Okay. This is beautiful. So everybody and ourselves, let's take this wonderful opportunity right now to close our eyes. If you're watching on Facebook Live, then if it's safe for you to do so, I invite you and us to simply close our eyes and take a breath, knowing that this is the breath of life. And as we take this breath and we bring our awareness to our heart space, you can put your hand on your heart just to embody that connection. Because I know right now that Spirit is here, that God is here, the presence, the divine, love, life. Whatever it is you choose, we choose to name this something by. This something is here right now. And it is love. It is beauty. It is joy. It is harmony. And it is grace. And I know that this something that I know as God is always here and always available. It is that infinite presence, the eternal beingness. And it is the wisdom and the intelligence that is running through everything, that is growing and expressing through everything right now. And it always has been, and it always will be. It is the life force. And as I know this more and more deeply in my heart, in my whole being, and I unite with this, I am so assured that in this unity, that I am a part of this experience that I know as God. And this feels good. This feels grounded. This feels safe. Because in this, I know that there is love. There is peace. There is harmony. And as I expand that knowing, I expand my own understanding of that, my mental equivalent of that, I become a greater vessel for this. And as I know it then for me, I know it for everything, everybody, every sentient being here on this planet, in the universes and beyond, that this force, this love, life, God, is expressing through everything. And I know that it is expressing as love. And right now here with Reverend Dan, with everybody at New Thought Media Network, Reverend Robert, Diego, everybody listening, anybody yet to listen, I know that God is here and present as comfort, as love, as grace, and that whatever we may be experiencing in our outer worlds, that we are able, because we come back to this knowing of truth, of this centered groundedness, that there is this loving essence that is expressing as itself and with its wisdom, showing and guiding us to our next steps. And so I see that it with such perfection and wholeness, that as these next steps that we take are always for our own growth and expansion. And however difficult it may feel, that we can come back to that knowing that we are safe within. We're safe within that love. And this is exciting. This is where the possibility is. This is where the vision can expand in our hearts and in our minds. And I see this for me. I see this for each of us here and present right now. And I'm going to pass this affirmative prayer over to Reverend Dan.
Yeah, so I simply just continue in this feeling of grace, knowing that there is an action that is happening worldwide, universally. It is happening in the collective consciousness. There is a shift and a change, a desire for growth that is emerging through us, that we are living in a feeling of shift. And I simply invite the comfort that is available in this discomfort, knowing that both of those things can be true at the same time, that there is a necessary feeling of being uncomfortable in order to bring us back to that same idea of love and light and wholeness that is truth. Knowing that the universe exists as a creative being. The universe and consciousness exists as this one love and light that we are a part of, we are of and from, therefore must be also. That in order to recognize this in our current experience, it is necessary to go through the mud in order for the lotus to bloom. That is our experience. We are requiring ourselves to find comfort in this discomfort, knowing that there is great evolution happening through us. And it is with grace that I know this happens. It is with grace that I know we navigate this shift, navigate this change. And it is with a great expectation that we await this new way of being, knowing that it has always been within us, that we are simply uncovering that which is. We are simply uncovering the truth that resides within us, the truth that we were born with, that thing inside of us that has always known that we are all connected, that thing inside of us that knows we are from something greater than ourselves. It is that thing inside of us that knows where we are going. It has never forgotten, not in a single moment. And I recognize the uncovering of this as something that is beautiful, something to be celebrated, something to be recognized, and we do so with ease and grace. And it is with the utmost gratitude that I simply share these words. Gratitude for the knowing that this is something that is known and felt globally, something that is an idea that we are born with, something that is inevitable, and something that we are consciously and intentionally part of. So in this gratitude, I simply release this idea, release this thought, knowing that it is no longer ours to act on. It is no longer ours to need to do anything. It is the universe itself that acts on this word, that it is activated on by a law, the natural way that the universe creates. So having stated this, I simply let it be. I simply let it go in gratitude and graciousness. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Reverend Dan, for being here on the Cosmic Prayer.
Of course.
Yes, anytime. You're welcome back here. There we go, Wayne. I'm enough. I'm a loving soul.
Yes.
You certainly are, Wayne. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Dan, for being here, for bringing your inspiration and your wisdom. And I should be so looking forward. I am looking forward to being with you at 12 o'clock at night. Yeah, for soul evolution. There is no time in my world. It's just one big experience.
Awesome.
Yeah. So for listeners here, yay, and so it is. Thank you for you listening here. We're sending our love. We're knowing love for you, and you are on the Cosmic Prayer New Thought Media Network. If this has touched your heart in any way whatsoever, and you feel called to leave a love offering, a donation for the media network, then go ahead and do it, because this is the law of circulation in action, showing abundance and knowing abundance always. And the button will be here underneath this Facebook video, and this video will go out live for everybody to see. And thank you, everybody. And we'll see you next week for another version of the Cosmic Prayer.
Thank you for listening to Cosmic Prayer, your weekly shift with Laura Topper on the New Thought Media Network. If you've enjoyed this programming, please tell a friend and join us again next week for Cosmic Prayer, your weekly shift with Laura Topper.